Hello everyone. Today we are going to delve deeply into the crucial topic of boundaries, specifically focusing on 8 signs of poor boundaries that everyone needs to be aware of. Boundaries are fundamental to our well-being, impacting every aspect of our lives. Yet, many of us were never taught how to establish them correctly. From a young age, societal norms and upbringing often discourage us from setting healthy boundaries. For example, children are sometimes forced to show physical affection or follow arbitrary rules, which can undermine their natural inclination to set personal limits. 1. Difficulty making decisions. One of the first signs of poor boundaries is the difficulty in making decisions. This struggle often stems from a person feeling torn between overextending themselves to meet others' expectations and doing what they truly want. For instance, someone might hesitate to decline a social invitation because they fear disappointing others, even if they have pressing personal commitments. This indecisiveness can lead to procrastination and a cycle of self-doubt, where the individual continuously second-guesses their choices. Over time, this inability to make decisions can erode self-confidence and make it harder to assert one's needs and priorities. 2. People-pleasing. People-pleasing is a pervasive issue for those with poor boundaries. This behavior involves consistently putting others' needs and desires above one's own, often to the detriment of personal well-being. A people-pleaser might agree to take on extra work, attend social events they have no interest in, or continually make sacrifices just to avoid conflict or disapproval. This constant accommodation can be exhausting and lead to burnout. Moreover, it can create an unhealthy dynamic where others come to expect and rely on this over-accommodating behavior, reinforcing the cycle and making it even harder for the people-pleaser to set boundaries in the future. 3. Over-focus on others. Another significant sign of poor boundaries is an over-focus on other people to the point of neglecting one's own needs. This can manifest in various ways, such as a person who is constantly managing others' schedules, solving their problems, or taking care of their emotional needs, all while ignoring their own. This excessive caretaking can lead to physical and emotional exhaustion, as the individual depletes their resources without replenishing them. It's particularly common among caregivers, parents, and those in helping professions, but it can affect anyone. The key issue here is that the person prioritizes others to such an extent that they lose sight of their own health and happiness. 4. Loss of sense of self. When boundaries are not clearly defined, individuals often lose their sense of self. They become so absorbed in fulfilling the roles and expectations imposed by others that they forget who they are and what they want. This can happen in various contexts, such as a parent who dedicates all their time and energy to their children, a partner who subsumes their identity into their relationship, or an employee who becomes consumed by their job. Over time, this loss of self can lead to feelings of emptiness, confusion, and a lack of purpose, as the individual no longer recognizes their own desires and interests. 5. Oversharing personal information. Oversharing is a boundary issue where a person divulges too much personal information too quickly or inappropriately. This can occur in new relationships, workplaces, or casual acquaintanceships. Oversharing can make others uncomfortable and may expose the oversharer to risks such as judgment, gossip, or exploitation. Often, people who overshare are seeking connection and validation, but they may not realize that sharing too much too soon can backfire. It's important to share personal details gradually and based on mutual trust and respect, rather than using vulnerability as a means to seek approval or closeness. 6. Chronic resentment and annoyance. Individuals with poor boundaries frequently experience chronic resentment and annoyance. This emotional state arises because they constantly find themselves overextended and taken advantage of. For example, a person who always agrees to help others at their own expense may feel unappreciated and resentful when their efforts are not reciprocated. This resentment can build up over time, leading to passive-aggressive behavior and strained relationships. It's crucial to recognize that this resentment often indicates a failure to assert one's needs and limits, and addressing it involves learning to say no and prioritize self-care. 7. Passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior is another common sign of poor boundaries. Instead of communicating needs, frustrations, or disappointments directly, individuals might express their feelings through indirect actions or remarks. For instance, they might agree to take on a task but then perform it half-heartedly, arrive late, or make sarcastic comments. This behavior stems from an inability or unwillingness to assert oneself openly. While it may provide a temporary outlet for frustration, passive aggressiveness ultimately undermines relationships and creates further misunderstandings and conflicts. 8. Fear of rejection and abandonment. A profound fear of rejection and abandonment often drives individuals to compromise their boundaries. They may go to great lengths to avoid conflict, maintain relationships, or secure approval, even if it means sacrificing their own needs and values. This fear can be rooted in past experiences of abandonment or low self-esteem. It leads to behaviors like agreeing to things they are uncomfortable with, staying in unhealthy relationships, or continually seeking validation. Addressing this fear requires building self-confidence and learning to trust that healthy boundaries will not necessarily result in rejection but rather in more respectful and balanced relationships. 9. Fear of rejection and abandonment. Finally, a fear of rejection or abandonment can drive poor boundaries. This fear might compel someone to agree to things they don't want to do, to avoid being left out or abandoned. This behavior can manifest in various ways, such as agreeing to uncomfortable tasks or compromising one's values to maintain relationships. Addressing these fears can help in setting healthier boundaries. When we consider mental health, poor boundaries are prevalent across various conditions. For instance, personality disorders often feature boundary issues, either through extreme boundary violations or overly permeable boundaries. In conditions like borderline personality disorder, the fear of abandonment can lead to poor boundaries. In narcissistic or antisocial personalities, there might be boundary violations where personal needs are imposed on others. Beyond personality disorders, poor boundaries can also be seen in anxiety disorders, substance use disorders, and mood disorders. For example, social anxiety might make it difficult for someone to assert their boundaries due to fear of judgment. Similarly, in mood disorders, apathy or lack of motivation might lead to poor boundary maintenance. It's essential to remember that poor boundaries are not just about agreeing to do too much. They can also involve violating others' boundaries. This is seen in high-conflict personalities, where expectations are unrealistic and personal boundaries are disregarded. In conclusion, understanding and recognizing these signs of poor boundaries is the first step towards creating healthier relationships and maintaining personal well-being. Establishing and respecting boundaries requires self-awareness and the courage to assert our needs. By doing so, we can foster more balanced and fulfilling interactions, both personally and professionally. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful videos like this. Stay blessed and irresistible.